Okay. Hi, everyone. And hi, Amy. Thank you for
Hi.
joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so
It's
excited.
it's such a pleasure to finally be talking with you. So to everyone joining us, either on the podcast or on YouTube, my name is Cameron Coots, and joining me is Amy Titus, who is a human design analyst and a coach, and she has some special things to share with us today in regards to human design. But really, I have some questions for her around manifestation. So, Amy has some experience with this sort of thing, and I just kind of wanted to invite her to pick her brain. So, yeah. So, and just a little bit more about Amy. How long have I known you? We've known each other for maybe a couple of years now.
It feels like our whole lives, but
It's
but I think it's maybe 4 years tops.
Really? Okay. Okay. Maybe you're right. The past 2 to 5 years are a little bit of a blur, and
Yeah.
a lot has happened and changed. Yes, but I guess part of why it does feel like forever is because we're both splenic projectors,
Mhm.
and we both share the five. So Amy's a 5-1 splenic projector, and her sun gate is in 57. She's a Libra, for all of you folks out there who want to know that stuff off the bat too. Yeah, so is there anything that you'd like to add to that, Amy, about you, and can you tell us about your background a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So, a lot like a lot of us, I started out in corporate and realized that it was not for me.
Mm.
And this was way before I learned anything about human design. So I decided to take a big break from that and went on the second leg of my spiritual journey and was introduced to human design, and it blew my world open, right?
Yeah.
Especially being a projector. It's just so intense.
Yes.
And the information is so important for us to be able to live as our true selves. So I started studying human design. Actually, no, I was introduced, and then I halfway took on the experiment. I was like, okay, I know I need to wait for the invitation, and I understand
Mm.
I'm splitting, but I didn't really understand what that meant. So I did that for about 2 years and then got connected with the teacher that I have now,
Oh,
and
amazing.
have been working with her ever since and just doing the different level certifications. But my life has, for the past 12 to 13 years, has been really spiritually focused.
Mm.
Although I kept trying to force myself into like the more straight laced corporate, push yourself, do what you got to do, hustle mentality. And my mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual life really suffered. So when I finally gave myself over to, okay, this is who I'm supposed to be. And then human design came in and really showed me in so
Mm.
many ways who I am, right? And all the amazing gifts I have and the propensities and maybe the shadow aspects. It really just gave me such comfort and peace. So,
Mm.
human design, I mean, when I with people about human design is my absolute favorite thing.
Yeah.
I geek out so easily, and it takes like
Hmm.
not somebody can say the word like projector or um, not self, and I just like go into like let's talk about it for hours. So
Yes.
yeah, I recently moved to Utah with my husband. We moved from Indianapolis, where you are, and we decided we just wanted a new energy, a new adventure.
Mm.
And so we've just been doing the thing out here. It's been really great.
That's beautiful. Yeah. How's that feeling so far?
We love it. It's just so beautiful. It's
Good.
wildly different culturally, and obviously with the mountains and the desert, it's just so different. But
So
we
different.
really like it. I think it's exactly what our soul needed in this
Good.
time, to recharge after the madness of the last couple of years.
Mm.
You know.
Hmm. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. That's excellent. Okay. Um, yeah, perfect. Okay, so what is it that you have currently going on? With
Yeah.
your work and with human design? What can you tell us about?
Sure. So I focus on helping people with self-actualization, and human design is a huge aspect of that, but there are so many other modalities and tools that we can use. So I have a company called The Awakening Design, and that's what that is all about. I love to focus on human design, but a lot of times people don't resonate as quickly with that. And so I
Right.
kind of work and coach them into understanding that better. And then if it doesn't resonate with them, then we don't do that. And then I also, my new passion project, because as you know, I am 5 months pregnant.
Yay. Yes.
So my new passion project is working on a Facebook group called Projector Motherhood, honoring our projector design, baby bump, and beyond. So
Oh, I
it's
love it.
all about supporting projectors through their motherhood, because as you well know, all of the conditioning around being super mom and like being this, nonstop person who really doesn't take self-care. Like it's almost in our culture at times, it's almost a badge of honor of like, oh, I don't take care of myself because I'm a mom.
Right.
And I just want to blow that up completely apart, especially for our beloved projectors, because we have enough going on, and just really wanting to create a community around that.
That is beautiful. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to learn more about that. I don't yet have my own biological child, but I have stepchildren, and and I'm a projector, and would love to, to just be a part of that and to see this kind of thing blossom.
Absolutely.
Just
Please join.
the camaraderie, right? And the mutual support and understanding. Wow, that's for sure gonna meet a need. I love that. Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get into to the big thing that we're here to ask you about. So can you tell us how would you define manifestation or the law of attraction?
Okay. Manifestation is the aligning of self to the energies of the universe, right? Because we're manifesting things all day, every day. Things are coming to us, right? And when we step into deliberate creation, that's when we're talking about, we want something, we have conceptualized it, we have this idea, and now like, how do we bring it in, right? And that's another kind of can of worms, which is what most people think of and what they want to know of when we talk about manifestation. But we could, if we just take a second and think about like, what are all the things that we're manifesting on a daily basis, good, bad, and neutral, we kind of get an idea if we also look at the kind of energy that we are resonating, right? That we're vibrating, that we are putting out there. And so when we think about what we want to create, right, it's all about matching the energy of what that thing is to the energy that we personally are vibrating. And that's super ambiguous, right? Like, that's very nebulous. And so I'm going to just break it down in a couple of different ways. The energy of something doesn't really matter. It's the energy that you feel about that thing, right? So say that I want to manifest a beautiful new home, right? How does that new home make me feel? Does it make me feel comfortable? Does it make me feel like I have beautiful things around me? So excited and delighted in what I'm seeing? Does it make me feel safe? And so those are the emotions that we want to bring out in ourselves. And it's so funny because I was thinking about this earlier. Say that you're having like a financial crisis or a situation where you need more money or something like that. It is so ridiculous to hear, oh, just, pretend like you already have it and feel all the good feelings. And you're like, I'm in crisis mode. So that's really difficult. I might be able to do that for a couple of minutes after a really good meditation session, but I'm not going to be able to carry that vibration with me the majority of the time. And I'll stop right there and just say that is the key, right? Holding the vibration of that for the majority of the time. It doesn't have to be all the time, doesn't have to be every second, but more often than not, you are resonating with the vibration of the feeling that thing is going to give you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. And you said that it's kind of nebulous and vague, but it feels very clear to me. And I think that's just, I've spent a few years at least really chewing on what manifestation is, kind of letting people's different perspectives of how it works or definitions of what it is kind of just seep in to just kind of feel it out and figure out whatever it means to me. And so I think that's the key for people listening, is that if this is maybe the first time they are hearing the definition of manifestation and it does not seem clear, it seems very vague and nebulous, you just need to give it time really to kind of let it seep in, like let it trickle down and find that resonance and understanding with it, because right off the bat that may, like you said, kind of not make any sense and just be too much. So That's what I would
Exactly.
encourage listeners to just
Yeah.
give it time.
And like doing the work and like looking at, okay, I want this thing. How is that going to make me feel? Right.
Yeah.
And so with the law of attraction with Abraham Hicks, which is one of the front runners of the law of attraction manifestation movement, or
Mhm.
not movement, but, bringing it out to the general public and the masses, their key is to really, when you're thinking about what you want to manifest, right? Remembering that everything that we want is an idea, right?
Mhm.
It's a thought. That thought has energy, just like everything else that you can touch and feel. And that energy is being sent out into the vortex. And the
Mm.
vortex is, and I love that imagery, it's this swirling, powerful conglomerate of everything that you want. And it's just out there
Yeah.
swirling. And then as soon as you align yourself consistently with the energy of whatever it is, that's when it comes to you, right?
Mm.
So we have
Mhm.
all of these things, everything that we've ever hoped for is in this vortex. And so depending on what things are, necessarily things can't necessarily happen at the same time, right? Like I'm not going to become a doctor and an astronaut anytime soon.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
both of those things are in my vortex. So remembering that the best things are coming to you, right? We don't
Mm.
necessarily know what's in the vortex, but
Mhm.
really leaning into that trust and that faith that as we clear our center, as we
Mhm.
clear our channel, as we naturally raise our vibration and through a lot of effort and a lot of time and energy,
Yes.
we can trust that the perfect things are coming to us to get us to where we want to be, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Mhm. Yes, that's perfect. I love how you said that there's effort and it's natural, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
natural growth and expansion, and it does require a little bit of trying.
Mm-hmm.
The alignment, right?
Exactly. Because alignment is our natural state, right? But it's our
Yeah.
minds
Yes.
that cause all of the resistance in our lives and our
Mhm.
worlds. So naturally we're there, but because of that resistance, sometimes we have to tone that down by
Mhm.
meditating, by visualizing, by getting out in nature, whatever works for you.
Yes.
And then we know that we'll fall into that centeredness. But
Mhm.
then the key is staying there as much as possible.
Yeah, yeah. So can you tell us what works for you when you're trying to get yourself back into alignment or maintain alignment? What are your tools?
Sure. So because I have the five, um, a lot of time I get pulled out of alignment when I'm not okay with the pattern of my life, right? I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of ebb and flows and a lot of quote unquote stagnant periods.
Mm,
And whenever that starts to upset me, whenever I get into my projector push of trying to will things into manifestation,
mm-hmm.
it always throws me off, right? Or whenever I'm
Yeah.
just not surrendering to what's happening in my life. Maybe somebody's not acting the way I think they should be. My mind thinks they
Mm-hmm.
should be acting, or things aren't coming to me as quickly. So when I surrender to what is, right? When I fall into a pattern again. So, like, for example, my pattern with my husband now is every day we wake up, he comes downstairs to make us our tea. Then we do a miracle morning, which is a session of like manifestate or um, meditation,
Mm,
affirmation, visualization, segment intending, and then reading, right?
that's
And then I
lovely.
come downstairs, I do some more work. I'm working on a book right now called Calling in the One, which is
Mm,
actually about calling in your romantic partner, but you can
mm-hmm.
use it for calling in whatever you want, right?
That's amazing. Okay.
And then I do another hour. This is a lot of meditation, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of meditation, like a guided meditation. So I've been doing that every single day. And this is what works for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting into
Mm-hmm.
this pattern of doing the same thing over and over again allows that flow to happen and that center of gravity to kind of get, if you think of like a top spinning, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
It can wobble, or as you get tighter with that center of gravity, it just kind of aligns better.
Yeah.
So that's what I personally do. And everybody has their own way, but I think the key is finding
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
that gets you into that, because I could be really out of alignment, really down in the dumps, and really not able to connect to that part of me that knows what to do. So once I start doing just a little bit at a time, I
Mhm.
find that things get more clear and more clear as to what to do to get myself more into alignment.
Mhm. Yeah, beautifully said. I love that. Yeah. Um, so can you tell us what that feels like when you are in alignment? Can you
Mm.
describe that version of you for us?
Oh, it feels like um it feels like a smooth vanilla ice cream, like
Mm.
so smooth, so in the flow, not too exciting, not too dull, refreshing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
really just feels like I'm in the right place at the right time. I have surrendered to what's happening, and I get that divine inspiration,
Yeah.
and I'm splenic, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
So I find myself flowing in the now with what to do next and what steps to take next. And it feels blissful, I would
Mm.
say.
Mm. So you're tapping into innate trust and surrender and ease and flow and divine inspiration, intuition, all of that stuff that's already there. That's what you mean.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Okay.
already there. We're just clearing out all the muckety muck, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
by working on our minds, and then manifestation starts to flow. And
Mm.
then, so back to kind of what we were talking about, right? Abraham Hicks specifically says, when you resonate with the feeling of the object that you want, it has to come to you. That's law.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, for example, several months ago, when we just moved, things were a little bit tight with like financially moving across the country, big deal. And for the first time ever in my life, even though my bank account didn't reflect it, I felt abundant, right?
Mm.
I felt
Mhm.
financially like I had all the money in the world that I could ever need.
Yes.
And that's very different than where's more money coming from? What can I pay bill wise? Oh, how much money is on my bank account, et cetera, et cetera. And I had never experienced that before, of just like intellectually, I know it's not there, but I feel like it is. And it was
Right.
so powerful. And so you can translate that to anything if you don't have the love in your life that you want next. Um, Feeling that love, feeling their presence and the impact that they have in your life before they're there. And it takes all of the frustration away. It takes all of the grief of not having it away. It takes all of the
Yes.
pain away, and you're just living in it.
Yes.
And it has to come,
Mm.
according to the law of attraction, which I fully believe in.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah. So can you tell us about anything that you were very intentional about manifesting and your process of how you went about it and how it arrived, that sort of thing?
Sure. So I'll use our move as an example,
Okay.
right? So because Brian, my husband, and I have always talked about how we wanted to move like across country. We've known each other for 8 years, and it's just been a thing. But neither of us really thought that we would actually do it, or that it would be a
Mm.
possibility for us. And so when I got the divine guidance of like, you're moving, like literally in February or March, like get ready. And this is in August. So I was like, okay, that's just a couple months away. Like, but okay, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do, there was a complete separation or a lack of expectation, if that makes sense. So the possibility
Mhm.
was there. I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't set up expectations of what this is going to look like, right? It's going to happen like
Right.
this. And my view is possibility, right?
Oh, okay.
So then I have the opposite of that, which is probability, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
personally, whenever I get into, okay, boom, 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 it's going to happen like this, and this, that's more probability than possibility, right?
Mhm.
So I just opened myself up and said, okay, I don't know where we're going to move. We had no idea where we are going to move. We basically like threw a dart at a map, like, all right, there we go.
Amazing.
We're like, let's either move to Utah or Colorado. Like, we just had no idea.
Yeah.
So, so I let go of all those expectations, all of that, this is what it's going to look like. And I describe it and this kind of goes to my motivation, which is fear. I describe it as feeling like you step off of a cliff and just into a black abyss.
Yeah.
You're moving towards something. You have no idea where it's leading or when it's going to be over or whatever, but there's just trust, right? You feel very connected to your purpose and you're moving towards that. So that's so after months and months of doing that, like we didn't know where the money was going to come from. We didn't know where we were going to move. We didn't know we had to get out of our lease early, like all of these different things. And then it like in a period of 2 weeks, we got our apartment here. We scheduled everything out, and then we were like, okay, we have our U-Haul like scheduled, and we just packed all of our stuff and left. And yeah, so it was really the effort. It was, I don't want to say effortless, right? But it was like we were carried by the flow of this river that was taking us and we weren't resisting it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That resonates so much. And, that kind of brings me to something that I want to ask you that I'm really, really curious what you think and feel about this. So we've talked about this before, how in human design, there are a lot of folks who, there are a lot of folks who are in one camp that think about using human design as a tool for alignment as a tool for manifestation. And specifically, there's a part of the chart that we look at that brings our awareness to whether we're specific or non-specific manifestors.
Yeah.
And then there's this other camp of folks who would lean towards the end of the spectrum, saying that there is no free will and that we are just here for the ride, and that we are here 100% to just observe the game, to just be taken for a ride, really. And so I would love to hear your perspective on this. And if you could even explain how human design, for anyone listening, how human design can be used for manifestation and what all of that means, and then your perspective and your beliefs on it.
Absolutely. Okay. So what you're referring to, where on the chart it says if you're specific or non-specific manifester, that is in the design north and south nodes. And the arrow that is right next to there, if it's pointing right, that's non-specific. If it's pointing left, that's specific. And what that means is, and I love this so much because I was doing it wrong or quote unquote wrong for so long. If you're specific, you're supposed to literally get down into the nitty gritty of what you want, visualize it. If you want a very specific car with a very specific interior, with a very specific whatever, like you're supposed to really get into it. If you want a specific house, you should know what it looks like, what street it's on, how close it is to the nearest coffee shop, like all of that. If you're non-specific, you're supposed to be much more ambiguous, kind of like what I was describing about I don't know what's going to happen.
Yes.
I'm just.
So are you non-specific?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. I figured.
Yes. And so just have this general idea, or even like, okay, I want to move, and these are the things that I want to feel. Yes. This is what I want to experience. I want to have beautiful neighbors. I want to have a beautiful garden, but not get into the deep down nitty gritty specifics of what that thing is. And okay, so that's what that is. So for me, I'm very spiritual, right? And so my spirituality lends me to believe that we have our free will. We can manifest, we can bring things into fruition for ourselves. And really that it is all about aligning to the energies of what we want in the universe and clearing our channel, right? Okay. I do see the other side, especially as it relates to human design and just getting into the fundamentals of, our incarnation cross and all the things that could be deemed as like, okay, this is a predetermined way that we're going to be functioning in the world. But for me, being more spiritual, I just believe that we can use, as long as we're following our strategy and authority, right? That's like the number one way to get aligned. That's it.
Yeah. Good reminder for everyone.
Like our charts are so complicated and so deep, but if you don't have that, you really can't be aligned and you really can't manifest without being aligned, right? So strategy and authority is the number one primary, most fundamental thing. And so when I personally am waiting for the invitation, that puts me in a totally different vibe than when I'm out here trying to be a generator or some kind of manifesting generator, crossbreed with a reflector, like just trying to make it all happen. It's just so not living in not self, or living not as our type, right? Automatically makes us not in alignment. It throws us completely off. So I think that's the first place to start. Did that answer your question? I think I kind of went all over the place.
No, this is great. Yeah. Share whatever you've got.
Okay. So then I was thinking about this as well. Like when we think about each individual type naturally has its own way to manifest, right? And then we have all of our authorities as well. But the core of it is really, so once we have our strategy down, right? Now we listen to our authority. And if we kind of mix human design and the law of attraction together, our authority will naturally point us to how to get in alignment with what's in our vortex, right? Because especially not especially, everybody works in the same way. But for example, for me being a splenic, my authority is very psychic. It's just very like in the moment. It's not a yes or no. I don't ask a question. I just find myself flowing and doing things, and it just leads me what to do next, kind of thing. If I were to stop right now and say, should I have Mexican for dinner or should I have Italian? My spleen's like, I don't care, girl. Like, it's not a big deal for me. So my spleen just leads me naturally places. And so I know that my spleen is so aligned with it is my highest self, honestly. And so it's automatically going to direct me to what I need to do to be aligned to attract what is in the vortex. And so you could use that for sacral as well. As you're listening to your sacral sound, that's leading you to do the things to get aligned so that you can then attract. And all, same with the emotional wave of the emotional being and on and on.
So having this awareness now about yourself, about people, using human design, and manifestation in your past, do you see things that in your life that you were manifesting through the not self, or that you see other people manifesting through the not self? You did kind of already touch on this. And I wonder if you can share examples or even some tips for folks to how to observe that, other than just being familiar with their particular charts. Any tips, any ideas?
Sure. And this is very abstract, like abstract collective, but it's like, you could see that as it's already done, right? So for example, I willed myself into a job that was completely not for me, like in any way, shape, or form. Just awful. And I was miserable, right? But I made it happen. And I created that. And then at the end, and after it was over, I was like, oh, wow, that was never for me. I should have never done that. And so I think when we look back at our lives, when it comes to the things that, there's two different ways to look at it, because some things we need to go through, right? We need to learn the lesson. Our soul calls for us to experience certain things so that we can add it to our library of experiences and things that we know now. But then also sometimes we get ourselves into situations by not listening to our true self, to our highest self. And those are the things that we manifest where it's like, okay, I was not aligned when I manifest that, right? I mean, you can think about that in relationships that you've had where you've maybe tried to shape yourself into somebody that you're not, so that you could be with this person that you thought you wanted. And it was like nothing but heartache and pain. And like years later, you're like, oh God, like how did that even happen?
Right.
Well, it happened because, we weren't listening to ourselves and we tried to will it into manifestation when it wasn't right. So again, going back to strategy and authority, it'll never lead you wrong, right? And even if it does lead you into a path that might be difficult, the benefit from that path will far surpass the trials and tribulations and challenges of that path. So that's really important to remember too, because life absolutely is not meant to be easy and all roses and butterflies, right? So remembering that strategy and authority is the key. And then you can see, and if you're really aware as you're getting into a situation, you can feel the energy of like, okay, this is not right. And then you can make a different choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not so black and white as, okay, if you start getting into something, you have to complete it.
Mm.
We can open ourselves up to that awareness in every moment and be present and say, this doesn't really resonate well. This isn't, this isn't for me. And then make a different choice.
Yes, absolutely. So it was actually you that introduced me to Abraham Hicks. I'd never heard about Abraham Hicks and their teachings before you came along. And you actually went to see them in Europe somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Can you tell us about that? You went with your sister?
Yes, my sister, because she's an angel, like my soul sister. Because I introduced her to Abraham Hicks as well. And that was like 7 or 8 years ago. And since then, she has like traveled all over and like gone to their workshops like all over. And so she invited me on a trip to Europe too. And then like that was what we were doing. But then we were going to like travel all around and do all these other things as well. And because I had, read their books and been listening to their YouTubes and watching those and just getting a good understanding, the workshop was just magical. It just sparked something inside of me. It was such amazing energy. Like you're in a room with like 1,500 people who are all really on the same page when it comes to wanting to center and create the life of their dreams. And that's a very rare experience, like if you're walking down the street, maybe 10% of the people around you are of that same of that same mind. And so being in that concentrated environment was just absolutely amazing. And then so the first day they opened up at 8. I got this is how excited I was. I got there at like 5. I was the very first person there. Nobody was even close. Cause like, I wanted to like get up front and I figured, people were going to be lined up for days.
Yeah.
And so I was in the park in Amsterdam, in this beautiful park in Amsterdam, like by myself waiting outside these doors. And I was just like, I felt such peace and just like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I was so excited. But yeah, so getting to experience Esther Hicks, who is the woman that Abraham channels through. So they tell you that when you go to one of these workshops, you should write a list of questions down that you have, because you raise your hand and, everybody's raising their hand to be called on to go up into the hot seat. And then Abraham speaks to you, right?
Yeah.
After you ask your question. And I had like 8 questions down on my paper. Every single one of these questions, even the most specific things, were answered by the end of the 2 days. And that's that's what other people's experiences are. That's what they say. It's like Abraham is taking the collective questions.
Yes.
And as she's answering a specific question, she's also answering a ton of broader questions. And I just felt so filled up. And it was just such an amazing experience.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's so special.
Yeah. I would definitely recommend it. I know they're starting to do their workshops again.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. So for anybody listening, if you are interested, I would definitely recommend it. It's so worth it. And it's just so powerful to see that kind of thing in action.
Yeah. And they have books and I think meditations on their website and other things to check out. Yeah. So if anybody tuning in here is new to Abraham Hicks, I'd say for sure, check them out. I just a couple of months ago, something clicked and it was like, go this direction. And it has really, really changed the way that I feel. Big time changed the way that I feel. And just having the awareness of their existence, Abraham Hicks' existence and the teachings existence through you was enough to when it did come back in, this little ping, I was ready for it, I guess, it was the right thing in the right time. And it truly has been transformational. It's changed a lot about the way that I think and feel. And really needed that. So yes. So just speaking again, just to add to your experience and your testimonials in a way that there's my little one. It's profound.
And they're so amazing because and this goes against our society in so many different ways, which is why I love it, because I'm an individual and a heretic. So I'm like,
yes, yes, me too, girl. Me too.
That, they really talk about and really focus on the fact, like, how you feel is everything.
Yeah.
Your energetic offering at any given moment is everything. And we kind of touched on that, but it goes so deep as to, like, if something bad is happening in your life, think about something else, and we're taught to get to it and think about it and figure it out and fix it. And Abraham is like, no, like, don't think about it.
Yeah.
And it just like gets you so out of your mind and into your vehicle intelligence of like, oh yeah, like, what am I really going to do about that? What am I going to do about the crazy stuff happening on the news? Nothing. Don't think about it. Don't watch it. And there's so many different camps that are just like, oh, that's spiritual bypassing or putting your head in the sand and all these different things. But at the end of the day, if we aren't centered, if we don't feel good within ourselves, how are we supposed to positively affect the world around us? Right? There's no way. So it's like really putting priority on how we're feeling and doing everything in our power to feel better. It's so empowering. And it's just, it feels so indulgent, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
So luxurious and luscious. But putting that focus changes our whole world and our whole perspective, right? Like, I can't help you with your problems if I am not in a centered place. It's just not possible, because I'm just going to project all over you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's so much truth that you're sharing here. I'm so, so grateful for it. I feel it so deeply. I wondered if we could go back a little bit to the topic of human design and manifestation, and specific versus non-specific, because that's so big for people. And it's nice to kind of have that roadmap in a way, that just that understanding, this awareness of, okay, this is how I speak with God or spirit or the universe. And you and I are both non-specific. And sometimes when people find out in their chart, whether it says specific or non-specific, sometimes there's a surprise, like, oh, that's not what I've been doing. Or when they learn about it, it's like, oh, that doesn't actually resonate. That doesn't feel normal. But it seems like for you and I, at least where we are now, being non-specific and manifesting that way does resonate, right? It does feel natural.
Yeah.
But what might you say to somebody who learns about their specific manifestation leanings, left or right, and doesn't resonate? How could you help someone like that?
Well, I would just, I get a little silly and say, well, how has that been working for you? And I'd be like, oh, good point. So, this whole thing is living the experiment, right? Human design is all about experimenting with the different aspects in your life and seeing how it works. And usually it works so profoundly that, it erases any question of its validity in your life. So really just being open to practicing the other side, right? I used to be all about vision boards and literally sitting and visualizing exactly what I wanted. And when I found out I was non-specific, I was like, really? But then I asked myself that question, like, well, that really hasn't been working, girls. So maybe you should try to be a little bit more vague.
Yes.
And so just giving it a chance, right? And giving it time, because it's like we're conditioned to manifest in one way. And so you have that resistance in your mind if you're so used to being specific and all that. And so it could be very uncomfortable to be less specific. And even so, you're driving down the street and you're visualizing, because that's something that you trained yourself to do, and you're just super specific. So even like reeling that back in and being aware and saying, okay, well, how can I be less specific about this? Let me get more vague. Let me tune into the feeling of what I want and go from there.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it would be, I like to think about what life would be like if all resistance stopped, right? And we just got everything that we wanted. It would be so far beyond anything that we could conceptualize, right? We would be so blown away because our minds can only conceive of so much, but everything that's out there is so much bigger than that. And so when we unclench the hand, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's such a good way to explain what's like being non-specific, right? You need to unclench.
Yes, girl.
You really need the specific folks too. but
Yeah.
especially the non-specific.
Yeah. Because it's like, even if you are specific, right, you have this idea of what you want. But if you do unclench a little bit, like what you're going to get is going to be so much better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Okay. Well, we took this in many places that I wanted to take it, and I'm so grateful for what you've shared. Is there anything else that you want to add in regards to human design or manifestation or
Sure.
anything?
So I was just going to add one more point. When we look at where that non-specific specific is on our chart, right? It's in our view. And so think of it as your view is dictating how you manifest. So if however you're viewing the world in a positive or negative light, however you are viewing yourself in a positive or negative light, that is going to dictate how things come to you, how easily things come to you, how well you're in the flow, right? And so if you don't already know what your view is, definitely figuring out what that is, because that can really guide you as to how you can, the lens you can look at life through. But just remembering that how we see things, right, affects how we feel. And we have all the control in the world over how we see things.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. And so the view is in the chart, and I would recommend that people use genetic matrix. What would you recommend?
Yep.
Same. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. Lovely. Thank you so much, Amy. I think this has been so valuable. Wow. It felt really, I have no idea how long we've talked already, but it felt so short and so so loaded. Like this feels like a heavy bag of information. Yes. Like I hope people re-listen. Especially if this is new to them. I hope they revisit a lot of this and then go to the places that you've suggested. Go find Abraham Hicks and look into your human design and all of that. Do you do readings, Amy?
I do. I do intuitive 30-minute readings.
Okay.
So it's nice, it's short, it's sweet, because again, as a projector, we can just give way too much information sometimes. Oh my
God. Yes.
Like I'll tell you everything you want to know about human design. So that 30-minute intuitive, I plug into my 57 of my spleen, which is that psychic intuitive nature. And I have people just ask me or tell me what's going on for them, what they would like to know more about, or an issue in their life. And then I just use the chart and intuitively pull information from there.
Excellent. That's beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So I highly recommend, if you're needing that, go find Amy. We'll include all of her information in the show notes here on YouTube and in the podcast. So thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you so much. I've had so much fun. I adore you.
I love you. I love you so much. I really, really appreciate your time and can't wait for people to listen. All right. Thank you. Thank you.